And welcome everyone to International Women's Day Week. And I'm Laurel Lyon. And I always find that this celebration of International Women's Day is just really special because it gives us an opportunity as women entrepreneurs, as women, to just become a little bit more aware or engaged or even more vocal about women's issues around the world. I was recently at the Women's Monument in Calgary that acknowledges who have been tagged as the 5 famous women in Canada who are the reason why we have actually we're acknowledged as persons and are have the right to vote. And along with that, you know, this was not very long ago. This is like right around 100 years ago that we didn't have the right to vote. We maybe didn't have the right to take particular jobs that we wanted to, couldn't follow careers that we were passionate about. We couldn't have a driver's license, own property, own land. If we were married, we weren't entitled to our husband's estate when they passed. And like there's a whole whole other world. There's so many things that have been forgotten. And I believe that this is an opportunity for us to become aware of and remember. And this year, 2023, International Women's Day is being acknowledged and celebrated by the United Nations in the theme of digital innovation and technology for gender equality. And women make up only 22% of the artificial intelligence workers globally, and a global analysis of 133 artificial intelligence systems across industry found that only 44.2% of that group demonstrate it demonstrates that there's a gender bias. So that that very small representation of women in that field. And a survey of women journalists from 125 countries found that 73% of women journalists suffered online violence in the course of their work. And while we were in Calgary at this monument honoring these 5 women, very in the close proximity of it, there was also a demonstration by people from the community of Iran, you know, out there on the streets in really cold weather, being a voice for women's rights for women in Iran. But it, you know, every time I see that, it reminds me that there are so many women living in this world that do not have the luxury of just a voice. And I'm so fortunate I live in Canada, and I'm being joined today by a friend, a colleague who we met through business, who's coming in from, I believe she's in Massachusetts right now, or Indiana. No, she's in Massachusetts in the United States. So we've got North America represented here. And you know, we're gonna have a conversation around, you know, what this looks like, what it's been like for us. Have, you know, what are women dealing with? How are women supporting and empowering each other? Because as women in business, there's always been there's always been a ripple, and that's changing, and we want to be the voice of change for that. So I'm welcoming today a friend, a colleague, Gail Kraft, who's Gail, where are you coming in from?
You're close. I'm in New Hampshire right now, so just north of Massachusetts, but in about 3 days I'll be in Indiana, so you were close.
Yeah, in my defense, she's generally someplace
I just move all the time. Yes, I'm on the move.
Yeah. And Gail is an author, a speaker. She's a women's empowerment coach, and you know, we've kind dynamics of human behavior. Oh, we got a bit of a techno glitch there. We both are very involved in the field of human behavior, and so we're very aware of the dynamics at play. And really, one of the things that Gail and I really have in common is how we believe we have a greater say and a greater impact in the change because of how we think and how we act. And what do you say on that, Gail?
Oh, so many thoughts going through my mind. Um,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
It's a big issue.
right. And so, women empowerment, it has a different flavor, and I will say, I have just as many men come to me as women, and their issues are very similar.
Yeah,
So, yeah, very, very similar because I believe the technology age has leveled the playing field.
I love that. I love that you say that.
Right, right,
Right.
and some in a good way, and some, in not a good way. But that's life. Not everything is perfect. There's always an upside and a downside. But I do want to tell a quick story of pre-digital. Um, while I was in corporate business, and I was working on a project, and there were two of us leading the projects. One on one side of the house, I was on the technical side. She was on the business side, and we were supposed to partner together, and we were like oil and water. It was horrible. It was horrible. And I had already been up the ladder. I'd been on the board of directors at a big company, and I did not ever want to do that again. I stepped down and I avoid that. So I had a conversation with her. I asked her to meet with me. And I said, and this is something that I could never have done with a man. I said, listen, you're climbing the ladder and you're stepping all over me. You don't need to do that. I can help you get there because I'm not interested. We can work together. And she said, I'm climbing the ladder. How? So I gave her the evidence. And she said, oh my God, you're right. We cried, we hugged, and then we made a plan to work together. And we killed it.
It's fabulous.
Right? And when women get out of their own fear of, I don't know, competition, female competition, like I did there, when you get together, her and I showed when women get together, we can blow the socks off anything.
Yeah.
It was a powerful experience.
Thank you for sharing that because that's I opened up a salon at one time years ago, and there had always been a salon there, but it was like in the next building over was another salon, another woman just like me, but and she was already established there. And my first day in business, she came over with a bouquet of flowers, and she says, "Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm so glad that you're here," and it changed me. And that was quite a few decades ago, but it's still there are many that have yet to have an experience like that. I
Right.
you know, and it's important because we have, like you said in your story there, and it's a testament to how you are as a person, Gail. And I believe that if we see ourselves more so in the place that we are human beings and we all have masculine, feminine in us and around us, whichever. We have left and right brain. We are yin, yang, and masculine and feminine in the way that we live, we are, and how our bodies are. That we are human, not woman against woman, or man against man, or woman against man, or and vice versa. We all have fears, we all have a shadow side, and we all have so many gifts to share. And if we're not working together and empowering each other, we're squashing our gifts, and
Right.
we're creating the shadow in our lives.
Oh, exactly, exactly. I will say that my first experience as an entrepreneur, when I stepped out of corporate, I was so fortunate to have found a co-working place that was specifically for women. And it wasn't just a place for me to go and sit down and work. They had educational programs, they had support programs, they had twice a month meetings where we would go and have wine and just sit around and talk about our issues and our problems and support each other. And it was the first time I experienced massive feminine support
Yeah.
of that nature. And it really shifted how I entered the world of being an entrepreneur, quite
Oh,
frankly. Yes.
really?
I
Right?
was so fortunate, so fortunate.
I've had the benefit of having many women who've walked a path ahead of me when I was younger. And then just the nature of my work environment, I've been on my own for so long. And now there's so many young ones. And what I really notice about, I hear lots of comments, negative comments about the younger women and the entitled. And I don't care for that word at all. I don't use it. But here's what I see has happened a lot of is that they came into the field of their business and that with a lot of benefits like the digital age and the ability to we got cell phones in our 30s 40s 50s, whereas they grew up with them. And
Right.
so there's this stigma. I see a stigma happening where it's like, oh, we're smarter, we're faster, we're this thing. And it's like, but they haven't had the benefit of understanding that those women that walked before them or hearing the stories. And I believe that that's really important to have these discussions so that they don't miss out on the richness of the quality of life because they don't know the stories about how we came to be where we are, because we didn't just arrive here. And you worked in corporate,
I
so
did.
you worked in corporate before the digital age was like, honestly, it's really only been the last 5 years where it's really been hot to be in, unless you were kind of already tuned into the digital. But COVID changed the world, and now many people are on. But you were there at a time like I was. I was in digital when others weren't.
Yeah, me as well. I embraced when technology came into the office. I embraced it, and I do have a quick story. I have a sister, an older sister, who was one of the people, the only woman programmer on the shuttle program.
Cool.
Right?
Really
What she did and how she did it, of course, was top secret. We never heard about it until after she left, and all we heard were the stories of her being the only woman with all these men. And so it was really, really tough. But the point being is what technology has done, at least for me, from my experience, I can go into a networking group now, and I don't have I'm not wearing a skirt, I'm not wearing heels, I'm not wearing nylons, that look that I would have if I was walking into a face-to-face networking meeting.
cool.
Because if I don't, then I come across too masculine because I'm very, very strong, right? And I can scare people because
Well, Gail,
I'm a
we're,
little bit
we
scary.
are, yeah,
Yeah,
we are a lot of work, right?
right,
Because
yeah,
we are strong, right? And
yeah.
I do
And that
think,
scares a lot of people, men and women, when you have confidence. And so because of the digital age, because we're in it's digital age, it's here to stay because of technology, I can show up and I can, yes, I'm dressed all the way, but I can be dressed just upper part, and I can come across softer than it because you don't see my whole body language. And I can check myself, I can see myself, and I can see, oh, that might not come across the way that I want it to. So I can change my communication style, right? And therefore, I am embracing more women than I did before because I'm very strong and I do scare them in the past, scared them away. And what they're seeing in me now is because of my strength, because of what I've learned, because of what I absolutely know to be true. They're now showing up because they can see the light, and I can reach the world. I can reach the world. Isn't that just phenomenal?
well, it is. It is
Yeah,
absolutely, because before, like you say, getting in the car and going to a workplace, now it's like get in front of the computer and you're in 4, 5, 6 different countries before lunch. It's been
I mean, you
fun.
and I have been in networking meetings where, I have some meetings that I start my time 9 o'clock at night. I mean, guys, I'm ready for bed, but Australia's not,
That's right. That's right.
right? And
Yeah.
so we try to find a time where, I mean, New Zealand, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning for them, right? And so we're
Mhm.
trying to accommodate the world
Yeah.
as best
You
we can.
you bring up several really good points. I want to touch on the coding next, but first I want to talk about the body language and how you present, because strong women often don't recognize themselves as scary or strong, or how that intimidates others. And it's oh, you talk about something that so many women don't talk about, but they experience every day, and they don't
Right.
realize what it is, and that causes them to shrink inside themselves, because it's, well, I am woman, I am strong, I am powerful, but it's like, oh geez, or that they think they respond or react more to what's going on, but changing it through their body language. I grew up in a time where it was more about the people pleasing. Be a nice girl. Nice girls don't say that. Be professional. I still do wear the dress because that is me. But that also gets a reaction from many others too. And I never understood that until the last decade of my life here. And it's like, this is how I am, and you know like it or not. That's
So I have
me.
a little secret. If I have women who are in corporate who want to climb the ladder, I tell them to get that sexy red dress
Yeah.
to
Oh
wear to the
yeah.
meeting
Hmm.
and to cross their legs.
Ah, there you go.
And I'll tell you, I'm sorry, guys, you're butter.
There you go.
Right?
Beautiful. Well,
Right?
yeah, why not?
You've got the tools, use
Yeah,
it because the men use their power in their intimidation,
that's very true.
right? And
Very
so
true.
you can counter that with your
Yeah,
femininity and your sexuality.
yeah. Well, I come from the beauty world, a couple of decades in there where the men own the businesses and the women are the workers. And there's lots of stuff. I learned so much about human dynamics from being in that industry. So
Right.
yeah, you're right. Use what you have, and but don't use it against yourself.
Right. Right.
Because
Don't go
that's
down
the
the
other
slippery
side of it.
slope. No,
Yeah,
no, no.
yeah, that's right.
Right?
And that's something that still goes on. And anyways, but coming back to the coding, and when you and I were going to school, it wasn't anything that we heard of, because the girls don't go into the sciences, right? We go into teachers and history and all of that, right?
That's the path I was told to go on, and I fought against it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
today in school, in the schools, girls are being taught coding as young as grade 3. And in third world countries, that one thing is also one of the ways that they're empowering women. In Africa in particular, the girls, there's special initiatives going on teaching the girls how to code. And here on a physiological level, it's like the left brain, which is the coding brain, which is numbers and all of that. That's all the masculine side of our physiology. That's the masculine behavior, the outside world. The right brain is all about the creativity, the feminine, the inner worlds, and how we nurture in that. So it's really powerful for us to use both sides of our brain. So to be creative, I saw when I was learning tech, and I was so right brain. It was such a challenge. And it was because it was such a challenge, I knew I had to do it. It rewired my brain, changed the way I look at the world, and I'm able to do my business. And I was into my 50s when I started with this. So it's never too young, never too much of a girl to do anything.
Right?
Right. And that's one more comment I just want to make, is that many women are born into a time when girls are expected to just follow this path or do the girl jobs or girl education or more feminine. And I'm so glad that so much of that has changed. Girls can do anything. My own girls are just show me all the time. I have two girls that work in jobs that are in the past were only for men, and they're top in their field, and I'm so proud of them as human beings. But they're breaking the mold. So in the work that you do today, Gail, how do you see that women or men and women struggle with that diversity of or challenge that as far as equality out there in the world? It doesn't necessarily have to be in the business field, but you see a lot going on with people behind the scenes in your expertise.
Yes, and this is very interesting, and you might be a little surprised. Both men and women struggle with vulnerability.
Mm,
They
yeah.
both do. Men struggle with they know they need to be vulnerable in order to be creative and in order to be authentic. And women are afraid to be judged with their vulnerability, right? And so, like I said, the problems are the same, right? So men are looking for what's my role now,
Yeah.
right? What do I do? And women are like, how do I show up in this male dominated role and hang on to my femininity? And you absolutely can. It's very important. It's very important. So, yeah. So behind the scenes, the fear of um, imposter syndrome. Oh, I hate that word. I really do hate that word. Right? It's an excuse now. People use it as an excuse for. It's just the same thing as self worth. It just means you're lacking self worth, and both men and women have the same issue of how worthy am I? Can I stand up to the task? Can I be a man? Right? What does that mean?
Mm,
Can I be a woman? What does that mean? Define it, and define it for yourself, not from what you've been told. And then it's okay and it's right if it's defining it for yourself,
exactly. I
right?
completely agree with you, and you're right. And there's many countries that are feeling this, maybe more so than others. But in countries where women have been marginalized for, more so than in North America, in the sense that they can't drive a car or they can't get jobs, they're put into roles, that keep them so low on the pay scale, that now women are able to, because of the digital world, they're able to become very wealthy on their own. They don't need big loans. They don't need anyone to say it's okay to go and do it. They're figuring out how to do it, and they are doing it. And I agree with you, because I've worked with men and women for many years, that it was interesting to me to see how big strong men were just marshmallows. They really
Oh
were
my
marshmallows.
God, they're big marshmallows.
They want to, to be at the table, men and women, and it's been confusing. A lot of the messages out there are confusing. So social media often plays, a false movie as to how our lives should look, how our bodies should look. That be your true authentic self
Yes.
is.
Yes. And
Mhm.
that's what I do is I help people get to the core of what truth is and what their truth is. Not my truth, not your truth, their
Right.
truth, right?
Yeah,
And then they can live there's such an amazing life.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, Gail, thank you so much for the great conversation and for your insights. Like you really are an expert in your field, and I appreciate your compassion and your wisdom, and how you combine that to deliver really phenomenal work out there in the world today. And
Thank you.
thank you. You're so welcome. And thank you to everyone who's watching. I'm with Gail Kraft, who is all about being in the flow. Watch for her book.
It's coming soon.
Coming soon. Yeah. Thanks so much, Gail.
Bye
Take
bye.